David, Lily, and myself, we know the unique obstacles that this group right here faces being outside of California, the challenges that a lot of us have talked about where, how do you engage when people are so far away from the university? A lot of times, your groups are people that have gone for jobs, their focus is on their job, they can't really focus on extracurricular or other type of activities. So, we talked earlier about engaging new audiences, we talked about social media. A lot of you are doing that, and we would hope that the people that you've seen that have done it successfully, that you'll talk with them and find out different methods and different ways with which to engage with your group. What we're going to talk about right now are some of the recommendations and best practices for groups outside of California. So different things for those of you who are in new networks to think about, and different things for those of you that are in more established networks to see, are we doing this? And if we are doing this, maybe a better way or questions to ask us how to measure these things, such as going to keeping attendance at events, and how do you do the follow-up when people come out to events, and then they don't hear anything back. A lot of times they don't want to return. Where if you give a follow-up, whether through email, whether it's on social media, they're more likely to return. So just for best practices, I gave you all the sheet. I'm not going to read through it word for word, but I just want to breeze over it. One of our recommendations for best practices is develop at least a quarterly calendar. So we talked earlier, for those of you that are in this room, about, it's hard to say next week we're going to plan an event and then we're going to have it the week after. A lot of times that short-term planning doesn't work out best. So especially people with families and people that have other things going on, they need to know about things well in advance. So we recommend that you at least develop a quarterly calendar of things going on, whether it's at a board meeting or whether you as the network president is doing that. If you need to plan an interest event, so you're just starting new and you don't know how to reach out to people, you don't have a listserv yet, you don't know who's in your area, you can contact one of us and we'll help you set up an interest event. So I know that in Raleigh-Durham, David and I were working with some people there. We sent out an email through EA Mailing, and we were able to get about 25 to 27 people that attended their first interest event, and that basically built a network. Where from that area, we build a board, start doing events, and start doing different things around that. So that's just something to think about as well. And I know Dominic and I talked about, Dominic's doing everything in Colorado. He's basically the one-man show in Colorado. If you have a network where you want people to start helping you out and you want to see if we can help you with EA Mailer and send out an interest event, let us know about that as well. Develop a regularly scheduled event, either monthly, every other month, where alumni can plan ahead to attend if they're available. So a lot of times, I know Tsau, you guys do is it the third Thursday of the month?
Yeah, we do that in summer.
So the third Thursday of the month, they do a happy hour or lunch, and people just know in the summer in Washington, D.C. that event's going to happen. So instead of just putting things on Facebook and hoping people know about it, if you get a regularly scheduled or planned event, that helps out also. Track attendance, like I mentioned. So people love follow-ups, and it also gives you a chance to advertise your next event. So if I'm coming to an event and I get an email thanking me for coming to the event and also talking about the next event, I'm more likely to come to that. So we can talk about sign-in sheets, we can talk about collecting that information, how to keep that information, and what you do with that information as well. So that's especially important when you have audiences that aren't engaged as much. Keep your network homepage updated. We've talked about this in social media, but a lot of you have network homepages. We just went into one of them yesterday to find if their calendar was on there, or if their network webpage was on there, and we couldn't find it because it wasn't updated. So if you need help updating your network homepage, let us know. And a lot of that information that you're putting on Facebook or social media, we could transfer that over to your network page so that people can have an easy way to access your information if they're not on social media. And when possible, connect and program with other groups. So we mentioned Pac-12 alumni, other local college groups in the session before this. Some of you were in that. It's good if you can't get enough people in your own area to come out. If you engage with other networks, sometimes if you do, for instance, you can collaborate with the Cal alumni. Cal alum might know a UCLA alum as well that you weren't aware of. So doing Pac-12 events or events with other colleges in your local area, I think is a good idea. And stay up to date with the Daily Bruin app. I don't know if you all know, but there is a Daily Bruin app and the UCLA magazine app. So, a lot of times you want to do things that are campus-centric, but you're so far away from campus, you don't know how to keep up with what's going on. So the Daily Bruin has an app, and UCLA magazine have an app where you can keep up with things going on, current events on campus as well. Last thing, we mentioned this in the other session, keep your social media accounts up to date. If if people log in and you have messages from 6 months, 8 months ago, they're likely to not pay attention to it anymore and not log back on. But DC, I always bring this up. If you want to see an example of someone, people who are posting things constantly and getting their message out there, DC does a good job of posting things. Even if it's not an event coming up, they do something UCLA centric, typically every week or 2 weeks, so that people are logging on and paying attention to that. So that's just some of the best practices that we're talking about. If you have any questions, definitely talk to one of us or whoever you work with, and we can give you some ideas of how to reach a broader network, either if it be a mailer, social media, or different ideas with that. So that's the
We have a question now. Feel free.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Absolutely, jump on in. One of the things that we handed out to you was we call our 2015 calendar highlights. Anyone need a copy that didn't get one? What we did is try to put, for this calendar year, try to put down some of the big events that are happening in UCLA. We get you guys are very far away. It's easy to figure out like what's going on with the football team or the basketball team, but sometimes you feel a little bit disconnected because of your distance. And so we try to put together this calendar just so you guys can have guidance. So there's a lot of stuff on there that you are familiar with, like International Strangers coming up and Alumni Day and things like that. But just knowing when commencement's going to happen, for instance, or when the first day of school is, and those kinds of things, or the first football game. What you can do is then figure out for your networks where you guys can fill in the gaps or want to try to program. We mentioned how some groups will do happy hours during the summer or something when there's not as much going on. The deal is like really just try to use this as a guideline and hope it's kind of a bridge to what's going on campus. One of the other resources we want to check in with is each other. You guys are a very special group in that you guys are everyone likes to say we're out on an island or out in the wilderness and all those things. You guys are doing this stuff from long distances, and especially those of you who travel for football or basketball games or do come to campus frequently, rely on each other and have conversations with one another about how something worked in an XYZ city to learn from each other.
Great. So what I want to talk with you about is what this session is about, right? Coming up with some new ideas, some unique out of the box ideas, because I think it probably in every conversation that we had today, there was some element of, gosh, what other kinds of things can we do, to get people to be engaged, to come out, or even to connect with us, even if not physically, but over technology, over social media. And so certainly if you're looking at a group that has just started or is looking to start, so if you have people who are contacting you and thinking about starting a network in their region, of course you're going to refer them to one of us. But one of the things that you can tell them to do is, and I wanted to highlight some of the things that Kenny has been talking about, and those are some of the traditional things, right? Some of the things that are going to resonate with every Bruin because it's a tradition of UCLA. So Dinner for 12 Strangers. Who doesn't know Dinner for 12 Strangers? And that's why it's been so popular. In case you didn't know, I'm Lily. I oversee the international region. So, even if you're in Lebanon, okay, you're going to know Dinner for 12 Strangers. And if you're having a Dinner for 12 Strangers, people come. Why? Because they remember what a good experience it was as a student, and now as an alum, it's a great way, and it's a non-threatening way, non-intimidating way to come together. Okay, so rallying around some of those events that are long-time traditions are great. Okay, new student send-offs. Are there any networks that don't do a send-off currently?
We haven't started it yet.
Okay, so a new student send-off is wonderful because I was just talking with somebody about how that engages the entire Bruin community. So it's different from any other event, right? Because you've got new students, you've got current students, you've got alumni, you've got parents. I mean, there's nobody else left to engage, right? So isn't that wonderful? Because that community then will stay with each other, right, through hopefully the rest of time. So that's a good one. And one of the ones that we've been thinking about on the international region is one that's on the other end of the send-off, and that's the welcome home. Okay, kind of like what we have up there, welcome home alumni, welcome back to your students. For many of your regions, they come here to go to school, and it's great if they get a job, and who doesn't want to stay in LA, but they go back home to their regions. They certainly go back to Japan, they certainly go back to Korea, and maybe they go back to India. Okay, so isn't it great if when you go back home, even if it is Nevada or Colorado or Oregon, that the community community there says, hey, welcome home, okay? And we're your resource, we're your support, you know, whatever you need, we're here to help you with that. So that's an idea to think of.
Look,
Yes.
question, we've had 2 send-offs, and the parents seem to be very enthusiastic. Oh yeah, we want to get involved. At least a few of them joined our Facebook group, but we never saw them at a game watching this year. We haven't seen them for the other events. How do you get the parents
You know, that's,
I don't know if they feel like they're not, I tried to make them feel welcome. They said they wanted to, but what's the next step? How to get them in the door?
okay, that's a great question. And I'll tell you, parents feel very engaged and very involved in a setting where they know they belong.
Okay.
Like us do the send-off. You know, we say helicopter parents, right? They are. They absolutely are. And I don't care how old they are or how old their kids are, right? The kids can be 40 and they'll still be helicopter parents. And so just like the students sometimes feel safe when, you know, their parents are around, the parents feel safe when their students are around because they feel like, okay, I belong. So I think what you can do and what has been done in the international regions, and also Maisha, who oversees the parent and family programs, and I'll talk a little bit about that, is they have what are called parent coffee socials, or it could be tea socials, depending on which region you're in, right? So it's an event where it's sort of parent-centric, right? It's kind of geared towards parents. But what you do, though, is, of course, you also invite alumni to come. But it's kind of doing the reverse, right? So you're having an alumni event, you're inviting the parents. But here you're sort of having a parent event, and you're inviting the alumni. So I think the key is for them to feel comfortable, like they really belong.
I think one of the things we want to try to do while you guys are here is use this as kind of a bit of a feedback. We know where we've been in the past, and we think we've done a pretty good job throughout today talking about where we're going. And we just want to make sure that we can kind of open this up as a discussion to see what you guys think about things and what we're looking for.
I'm sorry, as the Alumni Association, we thought something, my graduate school does Thunderbird. The first Tuesday of every month is a happy hour. And I know wherever I am in the world, if I feel like going and connecting, I can call the Alumni Association or look online or whatever and find out where that happy hour is, because it's all posted, and it's every first Tuesday. It's called First Tuesday. Everybody knows it. We have a club on campus, so that sort of fosters that culture that we have. But, you know, we have all of these great events that happen yearly, but is there anything, like, if I were to, you know, if I know I'm traveling and I'm going to be in Atlanta and I know it's First Tuesday, that I could go, oh, let me connect with UCLA Alumni, you know, what I'm doing while I'm there. I know in our region, with Portland, I started a happy hour event specifically for that reason, because I knew how well it worked with Thunderbird. But has the Alumni Association ever thought of doing, like, hey, every region, let's have a monthly whatever it is?
We put that on best practices because typically it's hard to tell a region that they have to do an event or make it mandatory to do an event. But we agree, we've all talked about exactly what you're saying, is that if that happens, not only will the people in the area be more likely to show up, but like you mentioned, if you're traveling to that area, you'll know if you're there in town where to go. So it's something that we definitely have said.
And you know, one of the big things that we did this past year is we really did push for the first time global game launches. So we every single week had a website where you could look up in any city in the United States that was hosting a game launch where you could go. And I know a lot of folks were able to go to games because like they were like, oh, I'm traveling to Houston, and I know the Houston group meets in Marquee too. So
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the rationale between coming for us having like dinners at the same time every year. Welcome to the city at the same time every year. Because then people start to relate and know, okay, dinners is coming up. Okay, welcome to the city is coming up. Okay, that's the event, is coming up. Like in the international regions, they will have an event that occurs once every month on a certain day. And so people have just, become used to it. And so if for whatever reason it doesn't happen, let's say it had to be canceled, they're already asking questions. So I think that's great because that's one way of engaging and knowing and counting on people to return, right? Because you have something that's going to be there on a regular basis.
I was just going to say to David's point, we love the global event, the Missouri game last year, that when we did that, the first one were you talking about the coasters somebody was talking about the coasters that y'all sent out and like the giveaways and stuff, and it was so fun to see like the hashtags, like just different groups posting like throughout the day, throughout the game, and that was just a really neat way to kind of remember that we're like part of this bigger group, and the more I think that we can do with that, I think that we would also really great.
The worldwide happy hour idea, I love that. You know, the first Tuesday of every month worldwide, UCLA has a happy hour. Wherever you are, find out if there's one. I just think as a marketing tool, wow.
Or even if it was like the first Thursday of every quarter that like school started or something like that, like, I don't know, something that was.
Second thing is,
Way to promote drinking with,
well,
School's starting again.
one problem you
Of
have
course,
with
in Asia, it'll be Friday morning,
but again, it would be the first Tuesday, it would get a day's head start. But like the view party for the first football game, the only problem with that this year was, what time was the game? I mean, in Vegas, we're at 9 in the morning on a Saturday, it's not prime time in Vegas.
Oh, I mean, it wasn't great in Virginia to have it noon.
Yeah.
Of course.
I mean, that's, I mean, you know, in that whole thing, like, you know, I think we all, that's like a frustration I think a lot of people share. And that's like, that's above our pay grade, that's ESPN and said.
Yeah. The other thing is the welcome to the city, you're saying all month. Because last year wasn't it like a football game that if they all wanted?
It would have been the Oregon game, but 3 of us were going to be at the game.
Exactly.
So we put it off until the
Does it have to be a football game, or can we go welcome to the city?
No, most of them
Ours
weren't
wasn't.
game watchers.
Yeah, there were very few that were game watchers.
Okay, so we can just pick a date now at our next board meeting saying, folks, our welcome to the city will be October 12th.
Actually, Amy had a really good one that we did for Welcome to the City. Yeah, we did I led a tour of a neighborhood in Boston. And it brought out totally just, at least half the people were people we had never seen before.
And that's a great idea because of the fact that, you know, I live in Washington DC, and like, how do I go to the monuments? Never. Like, you could literally do a monument tour, and you get probably a lot of locals who haven't done anything here.
And I think a lot of alumni know we just think, well, we're going to do like the wherever they live here, who's going to want to see that? But precisely because they're there, you know, we got to see a lot of the things. And there's also a lot of things that we don't know. Like here in LA, I think Pasadena once did not for Welcome to the City, but just as an event, the LA River walk. Right? You're thinking LA River, kind of ugly, you know, and most of the time it's dry. So what are we looking at? But you know, there are all these stories behind it. You know, historical stories, kind of unique. I think there was some murder and intrigue involved, and so you know, it became this like sold out event in no time.
Yeah, I was talking to other people about this, but I think awareness is hard. Like, I think things are improving, we have these global events, but half the time when there's new people, I always ask them, how did you find out about this? Yeah, I had no idea, my friend told me. Like, so there's some, even when they're having these global events, I don't know if they're like joining the Facebook and are there other plans, other ways we can, people know that when they leave, they're.
Well, I think to that point, you know, one of the reasons we actually have been trying to push these global events is because it turns out when people move to cities, which all of us did, you know, you usually update your information with the DMV, you update with your credit card company, you update with your XYZ, and you know what no one does? No one updates their information
I
with
saw
UCLA
California
Alumni.
driver's license.
You're operating illegally in the city of Massachusetts. But you know, but the idea though is that like when we do these global events, and especially when like you know we're collecting sign-in information and stuff, we're going to help update that information and get all this stuff current. And that way, when you guys do something that is very specific to Boston, or you know it's not something global, the information is there, and it's going to be more effective for marketing.
Right, so maybe in the Bruin connectors, did you know there's regional networks? I don't know, like something.
Right.
that-
Oh no, I mean, it's buried about 3 days at the very bottom.
Yeah.
But to your point,
Right.
Yeah. You know, when it's first sent out, you get the story of responses,
Yeah.
right? And then it dies down. And that's just kind of the behavior. But before we go on, I just wanted to, Maisha just came in, so I wanted to introduce Maisha Beasley, who oversees our current affairs programs.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
So my name is Maisha Beasley. I am the Senior Director of Parent and Family Programs here now in the Alumni Center in James West. And we just joined the alumni team, gosh, I think in November. Before that, we were part external affairs, part student affairs, and we lived kind of in that external affairs world in Wilshire. And then folks said it really makes sense for parent and family programs to be part of the alumni group. And so here we are, we're a team of 3. Just a little bit about myself. I've been here about 3.5 years. And prior to that, I've been at 3 other institutions. So this is my 4th institution. I've worked in orientation, new student programs, first-year programs, parent programs, and diversity programs. Also lived in residence off and on for 10 years, and I was done with that, which is one of the reasons why UCLA was a great fit, because it didn't have an in-residence program. And I love working with parents, and I think that really comes out of my own experience working with parents. I'm from the Bay Area, and my mother said you cannot leave California for school, so I picked San Diego State because it was like the furthest place in California from her. And then she found her way to San Diego State, so she became a member of the first Parent Family Association at San Diego State, and then went on to be co-chair of the first Parent Family Association at San Diego State. And after a while, at first I was really bitter, and then I realized that it was such a great experience for both her and I as a first-generation college student, for her to be able to experience San Diego State. And as a matter of fact, she started coming not to see me, and I wouldn't even know she was there until the last minute. She was in the vice president's box, like watching the game, and then she would send me, when we got pagers, like the 2-way pagers, she'd like, you can come up and get some chicken wings, but you have to leave. And I'm like, really? What are you even doing here? And so my career has taken me full circle of being now working for parents and families, and my mother, of course, accredits it to herself, that I'm now in this field. But I really love it and see the benefit of working with parents and their families. I kind of get rid of those misnomers right away in terms of parents being helicopter parents or doing too much with their students or being too involved. Because what I've realized about especially our UCLA families is that they really don't want to take over the experience for their students. They really want to help their student be successful here. And so what we say we do is we help parents resource their students by resourcing them. And so I'll just talk really quickly about the brochure that's in front of you and ways in which maybe you can get families involved in your area. So our office kind of runs as a 3-pronged process. We have a website and an e-newsletter. We have resources, so we have a helpline and an email assistance that we use, and Facebook. So we have over 5,000 likes on Facebook. And we post to Facebook every day, twice a day. We post events that are happening in local areas. We post things that are happening on campus. We post when bills are due. We post when T98s or T1098s are ready, so people can say, where am I supposed to get my tax stuff? And we put right there on Facebook and make it easy for folks. So we post all the time to Facebook. And what we notice with parents is they like to share that information with their students, especially when it's around career services.